afternoon, everyone. Oh, good light, because the glasses weren't going to help completely with that. Thank you for coming today. This is a great annual event that the Tahoe Chamber and the Lake Tahoe Visitors Authority have put on for the last couple of years. We kind of raised the bar on ourselves every year, and we certainly have kind of hit the ceiling, I think, this year with our two speakers. So I'm really very excited to present this program today along with B. Gorman, the CEO of the Tahoe Chamber. If you're tweeters out there, hashtag Tourism Forum. If you'd like to pass anything along to your friends about the forum today. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker and someone who I've admired for years. And actually, I've had the opportunity to sit every year and watch Carolyn do her magic, spin her magic for the state of California and now for the nation. You are very, very fortunate to have her here. She's just literally almost flew in from China yesterday, or tried to at least, I think, was the day before. So we're really, really thankful to have her here. Let me tell you a little bit about Carolyn. She serves as the president and CEO of the industry-led Visit California. And that's a nonprofit organization created to market California as a premier travel destination and to increase the state's share of tourism-related revenues. She served 2 years as vice chair of operations for Brand USA, and she's now been elected as chair of the board, where she provides strategic direction for the projected 200 million global program. This is extremely exciting for us in the United States, and I think Carolyn can tell you a little bit more why. She recently served a 2-year term as national chair of the U.S. Travel Association, where she guided the successful merger of the Travel Industry Association with the Travel Business Roundtable. And her passion and expertise is exemplified through the numerous awards she's received for her creative work and leadership in the travel industry, and was named 2009 State Tourism Director of the Year. There's more. She serves as the Deputy Secretary for Tourism in California's Business, Transportation, and Housing Agency. And in her dual capacity, she's responsible for implementing Visit California's $50 million global marketing program and serves as the lead spokesperson for California's $102.3 billion travel industry. I think it's really noteworthy to understand that the tourism marketing budget is an assessed business contribution system similar to our TID. And Carolyn and her staff have been successful in keeping that going. The initiative for the referendum, I guess, to pass that again was just recently. And in a recession, sometimes you find that state governments want to take that pool of money and use it for their general fund. And she's been able to protect that for us in California and support the tourism industry. Carolyn's shepherded the growth of Visit California into a global marketing franchise whose brand advertising alone generated incremental visitor spending returns of more than $5.5 billion last year. And under her leadership, California's share of U.S. domestic travel has grown by 1.3%, the equivalent of approximately 39 million trips in 2011. As you can tell, Carolyn is a busy woman who is working tirelessly on our behalf, both at the state and national level. Please welcome Carolyn Beteta.
I hope it's entertaining. And yes, I just did come in from China over the weekend, and I was supposed to be on a plane yesterday to go to Washington, D.C., and I was caught up in the American Airlines grounded situation. I just couldn't believe it. So instead, yesterday, I got up at 3 a.m. to chair a board meeting from the phone for 8 hours. Oh, so needless to say, I thought, great, it's Tahoe. I'm going to do Tahoe because it has been, I don't know, my body certainly doesn't know what time schedule it's on. I think it was almost good that I started at 4 a.m. yesterday morning. It was about Shanghai time. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And so that was a great introduction. I feel like this is a home. I have a cabin in Tahoe, but I started skiing thanks to my parents at the age of 3 because my uncle was one of the first defense attorneys up here in this area. back in the 70s. And so we would come and stay at his cabin on the beach here at South Shore. And every time I come into this area, I just have such warm and great thoughts, especially on this beautiful spring day, for sure. You guys are very lucky to wake up here every day. So a little bit, I'm going to talk about the industry, as Carol mentioned, and I'll touch on Brand USA, and then we'll get into the California issues, and it'll be fun to share the podium with Denise. Just like the dating game, I guess, with our stools. I can't wait for that part. Anyway, I just mission first. Our job is, of course, to, generate inbound travel to and throughout California. But a couple years ago, we realized that so many communities throughout California rely on us for positioning of the industry because of all of our research and the importance for us to be visible in the state capital, that we also put together a 5-year strategic business plan on behalf of the industry, for the industry, with the industry. And so sitting on top of that, even, our job, everybody in this room, is really to create desire for the California experience. As a matter of fact, when I traveled the last couple weeks with the governor to China, I was positioned as the experience economy. So that's fantastic, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But I think it's, as much as we are all marketers promoting our product, I think it's just as important that we're promoting our industry as well, because there are some unfortunate situations where we do come under attack, whether it's in Washington or sometimes communities throughout California. Where we stand as an industry, we are coming along as an industry and gaining traction thanks to the momentum created by the U.S. Travel Association. And we've tried to take that coattail and execute it here in California. Just a few months ago, San Diego came under attack. This is funny because I usually like to have a conversation and I can't see anybody because, is this funny? I can kind of see glimpses of people. But anyway, the mayor wasn't as tourism friendly as the previous administrations and challenged their BID. And it's been a pretty ugly situation for the last few months. They finally resolved it. But it was interesting. I spent a lot of time down there trying to assist in the situation as just an objective narrative on the economic impact of travel for California. And while this sounds like a lot, it was clear that about 50% of the citizens really understood tourism. It was in the papers, on television every single day, this issue. And so it's always fun to read below the newspaper articles and just kind of understand what people are saying, frankly. And it is just, that could have been quickly resolved if more people in the community really understood how important your job is every day, generating, frankly, $58 million in local tax revenue. That's from 2 years ago. My understanding is your tax revenue went up 13% this year. Can you imagine what this community would be without that annual burst of income? And I think that we can not remind the community, the citizens, the media enough about how important this industry is. Of course, they're jobs that can't be outsourced. In California, things have changed. We're under now a supermajority. We definitely have had growth in the industry. And a lot of the growth also has been driven by a huge amount of capital investment, about $14 billion over the last decade of new product and new infrastructure related to tourism. Some of these companies, obviously our friends down south, Disneyland, they just spent $1.5 billion in an overhaul of California Adventure. And, they're a global operation. They could have easily put that money right into their Shanghai park. Universal, they just spent about $300 million also. And they're about to spend even more money bringing Harry Potter to California. Again, they have parks all over the world. Doesn't have to be here. Our friends at Marriott, it's a global company. I just spent 7 hours on the phone yesterday with Arnie Sorensen, the CEO of Marriott. They don't have to put capital here. Marriott's building a hotel a month in China. So I think, those are some of the messaging points. Shoot, when I just drove in, I went, wow, look at the expansion that's happening right here at the gondola. I mean, that's important. Those are jobs. And I, again, want to make sure we're positioning our product as much as we're positioning ourselves, because we need friends to be able to facilitate development. Otherwise, that capital goes somewhere else. So our high level talking points are, gosh, tourism, $100 billion a year industry, supporting almost 900,000 jobs directly. Again, jobs that can't be outsourced. And looking at 14.5 million international visitors that are coming in that spent $19 billion. But the business has done extraordinarily well. And I understand you guys have also had a good season. Thank God for early snow bursts. Like good marketers, you rode that through the entire season. I know we're not done yet, or maybe we are, but I was very impressed. But you definitely sharpened your tune since we went through the drought last year. That was tough. That was painful to watch all the marketing people position, lack of snow for snow. And again, I'm part of the family. My daughter spent 4 years on ski team. It's community as well. But what's sustaining the growth is international travel. And really the biggest bump is China. China has grown 800, now you're not going to even believe this. Now I should be at the comedy club. 897% over the last decade. What market ever grew at that projectile? I mean, it's crazy, double-digit figures. This year, 700,000, we're about to release the 2012 numbers, 700,000 Chinese that spent $2.4 billion directly into this state. And it will continue. We're looking at, by 2015, 1.1 million visitors. So part of this mission with over 100 business delegates was to launch with the governor our first ever consumer-facing campaign. We're now working with a tourism ambassador. She's a celebrity actress and model, and she has 20 million, her name's Miss Gao, and she has 20 million Weibo followers. The market's amazing. The scale of it is, 10 to 1. You got 400 million that are in the middle class that are eligible to travel. You got 80 to 100 million that are looking at traveling outbound out of that market. We were supposed to travel on high-speed rail, and we were in charge of the governor's signature event in Shanghai. So hopped on a plane at the last minute from Beijing down to Shanghai just to get there quicker. And we're sitting on a 747 that's basically a Southwest flight. There's just so many people, it was just, it was amazing. It just really, and I lived in Hong Kong. I've been to China 20 times probably. And it wasn't until I was sitting there on a domestic flight that was a 747 that I went, oh yes, there are a lot of people here. And they're willing and wanting to go overseas. And they actually are our highest per capita spenders. They love to shop. That is part of their experience. So we have done a lot to get prepared for that market. And many of you have probably participated in our China Ready program. And I know Denise is going to cover this issue in depth. But this year's milestone, after opening our trade offices in 2008, was to launch to the consumer through our tourism ambassador. Brand USA, we've got a perfect alignment also, because now we have, for the first time ever, a national destination marketing organization that is professional in terms of the board construct and the staff construct, with sustainable funding, 200 million, 100 million cash that's matched with cash and in kind by the industry. So basically $120 million base budget. And their goals are to welcome 100 million international visitors by 2021. So obviously, as a gateway city, the opportunity of the involvement I have, especially I spent 4 months as their acting CEO over the summer. So there is a huge alignment in strategic marketing plans. And now, with the president being reelected, this president truly believes in tourism, and his declaration of a national tourism strategy really changed the focus and the scope in our ability to not only work on Capitol Hill, but the administration. We saw China wait times for visas, which was, a decade of dealing with the Chinese having to wait over 45 days to maybe get a visa. They're getting visas now in less than 5 days. So they invested and grew their consular processing unit. I had a chance to meet with Ambassador Locke last week also while we were there, who was Secretary of Commerce, and now he's the ambassador to China. And we worked very closely with him on that visa issue. And so it was just great closure because I haven't seen him since he left Washington. But that is one reason why we have this precipitous rise in China. And we want to make sure we hold on to that market from a competitive standpoint because, of course, everybody's there. But we have 47.5% share of market. So if we just hold on to share while we grow volume, we're all going to win. They have an average stay of 10 days, 10 nights, and they're spending almost $3,000 per trip. We're all going to win in this state by grabbing them. So Brand USA also has launched in China, and they have actually a footprint in 11 markets representing 75% of international inbound travel. And many of you have seen the brand spot that they launched with an anthem by Roseanne Cash. It's done extraordinarily well. And we definitely have communicated that back to our stakeholders on Capitol Hill. Of course, they're called actiondiscoveramerica.com. But again, strategically, they also are opening up offices. And over the next 18 months, we'll have a presence in 11 countries. And the first 4 offices they've opened actually happen to be our offices. So again, very tightly interwoven strategy of giving us lift as a gateway state with that $100 million plus investment. So if folks, I always put this up because I think it's so important, but if, even the UK, that still is a huge market for us, 700,000 visitors, it's an island nation. If they can go anywhere in the world, they're globetrotters too. And if they're not thinking about the USA, or frankly, if they're not thinking about California, they'll never make it to Lake Tahoe. So our job is to drive that brand awareness, top of mind awareness, and provide an umbrella messaging platform on behalf of the entire industry while you are all focused on the conversion and the transactional piece of the business, as well as the branded piece of the business. But one of our guiding principles in our plan, of course, is do what the industry can't do for itself. And the stakeholders, leaders have asked us to spend sizable amount, frankly, all of our budget on long-haul domestic or international travel. So speaking of leadership, definitely Tahoe, the snow product, mountain product is well entrenched in our DNA from a leadership level right now. We have Rusty Gregory from the competition down south. Remember when we go overseas, they're not competitors. We're actually trying to drive snow product against Utah and Colorado. But he's part of our leadership team. But we've also had John Wagnon, who's a former vice chair, and now Julie Maurer on the north side. Yes, I know it's competitive there, but again, where we play, you want people thinking of Lake Tahoe. And you guys can find out whether they're coming from the north or the south out of the Sacramento markets and some of your closer feeder markets. But she's now on our executive committee. I think the important thing is these people value the outdoor experiences and the mountain product and the snow product. And you'll see that we definitely have had that as one of the strategic pillars in all of our marketing that we do. Even more importantly is thanks to our friends in the rental car industry. They're supporting our $50+ million annual budget by about 80%. So you can see 81%, the light blue, is actually the direct investment of the rental car categories, followed by hospitality or hotels, at 13%. And then the other categories, 3%, 2% is restaurant, retail, attractions, ski resorts, ski, heavenly, it's just, heavenly, whatever, squaw. It's that includes Disney and Universal too. So you've got this incredible lift from partners to create this global branded effort that's highly leveraged by the rental car industry, and we owe them a bit of gratitude. So we're doing fairly well competitively in the U.S., but we're a global destination, and we are marketing globally. So you can see that we actually, for those of you that have bionic vision, I now see people squinting. I'll help you out. I can't even read it, and I'm standing right here. But anyway, California's about 15th in a variety of international destinations that actively promote, like Australia and Mexico and the UK and Hawaii. Orlando, the governor of Florida actually just looked at our competitive spend and has put into a budget to bump theirs by another 30 million. So we were neck and neck, and now they're saying, wait a second, we need to outpace California. So we do have some competitive issues. As a matter of fact, we'll be addressing those with the board, but I think it's first important to pat ourselves on the back, because the referendum that we do for every 6 years with the industry just closed last week, and we announced that it passed with a 93% approval rating. I actually love the referendum years. I like getting close to so many people. I like painfully sitting in the focus group, the focus group work that we do, where you're behind the smoke screen and I'm listening to folks like you on what's important to the program. And I'm dragging our senior management team in with me, going, sit, you're going to listen. We're not that far off base. It's really just the nuance of, what's important and how we connect on what's important. But again, we appreciate the support, and I really can stand here honestly and say we have the lowest operating head of any state DMO in the nation, and we make every dollar work as hard as it possibly can. And we're so lucky that it's California, and we're lucky to live in this incredible experience economy. So our approach as we went into the second year of a 5-year plan was to look at, the first year was really building and scaling. The second 5-year plan really talked about engagement, and then go deeper with the consumer. And we all know we've had to do that as part of the digital age. But we also understood that we were a platform. And I talked a little bit about that in the beginning, for developing that California brand awareness and opportunities that might not exist if you were trying to conduct those as an individual business versus a collaborative with other partners throughout the state. Of course, brand is so important. I mean, we hear it time and time again, and we also have heard how important it is during recessionary periods, that strong brands do much better than no brands. I talked about engagement, and we added a fourth pillar of strategic objective, and that was international, knowing that Brand USA was coming on board, and want to make sure we were as tightly, positioned to leverage that $100+ million budget. So our global reach really spans 12 offices around the world. Another slide that probably is difficult to read, and we actually have a presence in 22 countries around the world. And we run brand in the UK, Canada. We've run brand in Japan. We just launched in China. And we just hired our first consumer-facing firm out of Mexico. We'll be launching brand in Mexico as well. And we run a huge branded effort in Australia in addition to that. So you can see on the next slide really where the spending breaks down in terms of domestic versus international. And frankly, our spending's about the same too, right? It's 48%, 52%. in terms of what we're spending to attract this audience. The difference is domestically, we can do a very effective job in terms of reach and frequency. You know, when we go overseas, we have to look myopically at making sure the spend is efficient. And actually, in 3 weeks, we'll be delivering some recommendations and doing an interactive session with our board on what does the next 6 years represent and how do we want to look at resource allocation given some global research that we've been doing in the last year. But our most powerful asset, moving on to the marketing side, is our collective people, not just celebrities, but everyday Californians. That just comes to the surface time and time again, that the most powerful asset we have is our culture, our, very entrepreneurial culture. And that was probably the fun part about being in China, was that, when you're a little kid, your parents always talk about you right in front of you. I always felt that way with the tourism industry when I'd go on these trips. What's tourism doing here? Are they a business? And so I felt that pressure again. And we had a tourism delegation, a very strong one in China with us. But the first day you sit down with the governor and the senior staff and the 100 business delegates, and because we were producing the signature event for them, we already had a little bit of a bounce as an industry. I mean, I'm sitting there with healthcare professionals, green energy, biotech, agriculture, every industry segment, entertainment, they're all there. And so I was doing the wrap-up piece of the briefing, and I knew we had to break through, and we did. We talked about, sharing our economic impact, but the most important thing I shared is I love sitting in this room because this is the time where we actually are all held together as a culture and as a state, and we are your concierge for economic development, and they understood it. So, it's funny that why travel matters and that strategic messaging, we get a lot of traction when we go overseas with the governor and a business delegation, because there are a lot of senior ranking officials on those trips. And frankly, we have more experience in international markets than 99% of them. Plus, we're actually investing in them. So I'm pleased to say that we came back with a little bit more respect from some of our other industry peers that are, talked about in the media narrative all the time as being so important. But the people is really the narrative, and that's what I love. We've blessed with an embarrassment of riches geographically, and we certainly weave that into the tale, but the messaging is around our culture. And so I'm just going to shift a little bit on that positioning. Find yourself here, both a literal and spiritual call to action. We just launched a month ago a focus on the family market. Again, huge investment by, Disney, Universal down south. The investment that you have made here in Lake Tahoe to become a Four Seasons destination will, ride the wave of really looking at family as one of our pillars. And so I'm going to show you the new spot. Has anybody seen Kids at Play? Okay, I see a couple of hands. So many of you recognize Manny from Modern Family. He was kind of our celebrity anchor, but the narrative is the same and similar as our past campaigns in terms of kind of poking fun at ourselves, but with the, this generation being digitally obsessed and people trying to manage that away from children. I have a 17-year-old. It's constant. I get it. We always like to think we're a little bit smarter in the wit, and we just wrapped ourselves around that issue, and you'll see the double entendre. So let's show Kids at Play.
You think kids don't get out and play enough?
Whatever you do, don't bring us to California.
We'll just be online the whole time.
Surfing.
Tweeting. Texting.
Downloading.
Streaming.
and obsessing about the latest technology.
Is there an app for this? Maybe kids should get out and play more. But where? Right here.
Start your family's playtime at visitcalifornia.com.
So that spot that's showing now, it's getting really good reviews. I'll move in and I'll run these back to back, just if you're curious, kind of some of our other experience pillars. Definitely shot in Lake Tahoe. You'll see a montage that pulls in our mountain experiences, particularly the one that you've all seen many, many times, our snow spot. So let's just run those back to back, all anchored by real Californian celebrities, chefs, Olympic athletes, goes on and on.
People have a lot of misconceptions about California, but none of them are really true.
None of them.
They think we're all surfers.
Or celebrities that were all into yoga.
And that everyone owns a winery.
Or skateboard.
And that we all drive convertibles.
Where did they get these ideas? Like how we all live in bikinis and act like movie stars.
You want to know the truth about California? Get out here.
We'll show you how we roll.
Start your trip at visitcalifornia.com.
Everyone thinks Californians are so chill. But we're actually pretty ambitious.
We reach for the sky! Woo-hoo! We put our best foot forward. We're persistent.
Really persistent!
We just keep jamming.
So if you have a dream of reaching the summit,
Chase it down in California.
because out here,
You've got friends in high places. Start your trip at visitcalifornia.com.
We love growing things in California.
we set our imaginations loose.
And watch the magic happen. It's never garden variety.
But it's always fresh.
So come enjoy.
Come enjoy.
Come enjoy.
A taste of the good life. Bring your appetite.
Because one taste is never enough.
Start your trip at visitcalifornia.com.
People say Californians are out there.
Oh, we're out there. We're into some wild stuff. Woo!
Real wild. Like we're from another planet. From another world.
We've got some far out ideas.
Far out!
And different tastes.
We may be out there.
But out there,
It's a pretty great place.
So join us.
you know where we'll be.
Start your trip at visitcalifornia.com.
So that's the suite of the pillars, reflected by the research of what really drives consumers to consider California. Obviously, 30-second broadcast spots are important, but we've got to go deeper in terms of content integration. So we developed a strategic partnership with E and have been working with them for the last 2 years doing vignettes with California celebrities. I have to say, almost embarrassing how they're like video news releases, and they actually run them on the air. And I'm going to show you one because he really talks about, how great the mountain experience is. I think you know him, Sean White. So in addition to broadcasts, we're also running integrated content.
Let's talk about a real California boy, 26-year-old pro snowboarder and skateboarder Sean White.
Tonight we visit Sean at North Star, California as we shine our spotlight on this California dreamer.
I don't remember ever being told that I couldn't do something. Being from California just really allowed me to do whatever I wanted.
Sean was born and raised in the coastal city of San Diego, where at the age of 6, his big dreams began with skateboarding at the nearby YMCA and snowboarding on the Cali slopes.
It started as a family thing for me. And that's what's cool. I mean, my parents were just like, oh, this would be fun for the kids. Like, let's bring them up there. And then I just figured it out.
Now the two-time snowboarding Olympic gold medalist lives in Los Angeles, making it easy for him to skate, surf, and hit the powder. North Star is the pros' primary Olympic training grounds, which boast 3,000 acres of terrain, including a superpipe designed by Sean.
They have the 22-foot half pipe now. So you can come ride the half pipe that I train in.
From skateboards to BMX bikes and more, Sean is giving his fans the chance to make their action sports dreams reality. with the Shaun White Supply Co.
I test the product, so you can go from everything from like a beginner setup to basically what I skate. Those boards that are sold are the ones that I skate at the competition.
For more with Shaun, head on over to ET Online, click California Dreamers, and start exploring.
So obviously we've gotten incredible coverage by being part of their web operation as well. So one of the things we did as we looked at efficiencies and media rates are going up and our budget is stagnant is say how can we eke out every penny of every dollar. And as we were running brand globally, we thought, well, maybe we should actually flip the pyramid. And what you saw with all of our brand spots is we've got an inverted pyramid. And what we wanted to do is mirror strategy adopted by Brand USA. Theirs driven by speed to market and production efficiency, where they have one global spot. And so that's what we're working on and working to throughout the spring and summer, is to see if we can accomplish getting to one global spot, which will save a lot of money, perhaps upwards of $5 million in production, that we can put deeper into these experience pillars as we move into phase 2, and then have the triangle fill out on the bottom with co-op, and working with you in terms of not buying programs, but really buying an audience. Because now we can do that so efficiently in the digital age. So of course, you know, the experience pillars that we're talking about: family fun, culinary, which is a huge destination driver for us, culture and entertainment, outdoor adventure, recreation, that's where the snow product would fall into, and then also luxury spa. So obviously this destination falls into many of those pillars, and there's opportunities as we work through and start to develop co-op. It's not like we haven't around these, but further enrich it and put more media dollars into the digital channels that give rise to an opportunity to actually make transactions for all of you. So that's the direction we're moving to. For example, you know, we started the family co-op pillar a year ago before we even developed the broadcast piece. And we've worked with Nickelodeon. Our research came back that said we're on par with Florida. I was shocked. So I don't want to lose that. With the investment you're making here in Tahoe and all over the state, we want to champion that for sure. I know Mexico's a strong market for you. We just hired a consumer-facing firm there, and family is very important out of that segment. And we've also done a lot of work with Nickelodeon in terms of integrated content around that pillar. In terms of culinary, probably our signature event besides the spot has been Restaurant Month for January. Several years ago, we sent out kind of a poll in terms of everybody does restaurant weeks, and what we found is 80% of our destinations were doing a restaurant week in January or early February. So we worked with everybody to create kind of that platform again, or a portal strategy to drive visitors, not just locally, because restaurant weeks are largely a local driven issue. But if we could put a platform together, now all of a sudden we're driving visitation, because people are going to want to start to visit everywhere. And we're seeing destinations that are horrifyingly fierce competitors like San Francisco and LA actually partnering under that banner, creating kind of a culinary trail. So I'm excited about the pillars because I can see where they're going to take a life onto themselves, certainly. And obviously our culinary has been supported by, you know, a very robust print campaign targeted at those lifestyle mediums as well. Of course, culture, huge for us in terms of our archives of cultural experiences. And entertainment, I don't think I need to say a whole lot. Thanks to our friends in Hollywood, we actually do have a global brand that sits on top of or on par with, for example, New York in that category. And that is our competitor globally under that pillar. Outdoor adventure, again, the research came in strong. And what I liked about the research on the adventure pillar is that really people want to experience our secondary destinations that are beyond the gateways. And so sometimes we would have some reservation about, gosh, do you have to show the icons? And after this research came through, we worked with our Rural Tourism Advisory Committee just to produce that broadcast spot, because the research was so strong that that spot could stand alone in many of our international markets. It's running in Canada, the UK, and Australia. And so we'll be doing more under that pillar with all of you. And then, of course, luxury and indulgence, huge emerging pillar for us. We've got the product all over the state. It's certainly here. And that pillar definitely is recession resilient. And so as we develop these, I was speaking at the California Travel Summit and talking about this pillar at the end. And I had several people come up to me and said, can I be on that committee? We've been trying to do this for a long time, and we just can't have we don't have any traction. So we'd love to work under you in developing that. So again, I love to see the legs on this as we've moved into a globalization strategy. We brought our co-op brochure that's here today. I'll just run through a couple of them. I've mentioned many of them, Restaurant Month. But be sure to grab it, because there's just been so many opportunities, obviously. Content on the web. I mean, we're constantly uploading content, and we do have a lot of content, definitely. Like winter, our deals page is the most popular. It's huge. And we definitely have a lot of Lake Tahoe content on that deals page. And the other thing we did, I talked about our Chinese ambassador, but as you know, we've had Rob Lowe as a tourism ambassador. And what we found is video is the most compelling content for web. And so we had him do kind of webisodes is how we positioned it. And it's just gotten incredible traction, over 3.2 million visits since we launched this. And he's just incredibly passionate about the state and incredibly knowledgeable. And I just encourage you to check it out, because he does talk about the mountain product, but I think I'll pass for now, even though he's unless you guys want to see it, I'll show it to you, but it's just incredible traction. So, but that'll be your chore. I'll send you to our website so you can check it out. Visitor guides, these crack me up because everybody says, oh, really? We should just go all digital. The visitor, it's funny, when they're turning pages, they're in the inspiration mode. When they sit down in front of a screen, they're now shifted from inspiration to planning as a tool. So it's very important to be able to be in all marketing channels. To hit the consumer where their mind is as important as trying to grab them in terms of where they want to go. So very important, but we also produce our visitor pieces and property digitally. And actually the 2012 got about 3 million page views. I mean, it's just incredible. We produce 500,000 every year, and lots of content on the High Sierra for sure. Media events, that's another example of a platform. I know many of you have been to New York with us, for example, and we do them in Los Angeles and San Francisco, and we frankly do them overseas. They've been sold out for years, so I've been told of horrific stories of people standing around waiting to push the send button to get in. But another successful media event we just had in New York, over 100 elite journalists that definitely write about product, and we want them writing about your product. So I'm glad you're participating with us. Very, very important. And just a perfect example of it'd be very difficult for Harvey's to go into that market and hit 100 journalists in one day. But if we can create that platform, you'll have great success. Mobile, so important, as you know. Funny that when we launched this last year, and this is probably one of my favorite collateral pieces, I use it personally all the time. We have an integrated partnership with Yelp, so it's very granular. And if you're not on Yelp, then you're not on our mobile device. But when we launched it, it was before globalization, so we're, positioning around an English-speaking or domestic audience. And within the first few weeks, 66% of the people that were tapping into the mobile site, international. So we went, that was probably one of the precipitating events, along with, production efficiencies of, wow, we need to shift our mindset here. It's very difficult to do because you still have to be mindful of language and cultural nuance. So you have to, even though you're going global, you still have to be very sensitive about localization. So now we call it glocalization. And it always gets picked up on spell check. Anyway, we also try to reach visitors on the ground. Another, example of a great platform is our California Welcome Centers program. Of course, we've got one in Truckee, Auburn, and El Dorado Hills. And those 20 locations, which is critical mass, sell the entire state. And they are definitely kind of the concierge after, we've collectively brought them to California. So they're very important. I'm going to close with just saying thanks to Nicole Farley. She's here. Where is she? Raise your hand. Move it. Oh, you're moving around. Anyway, if you don't know Nicole, definitely get a chance to say hi to her. She's the one that is the key messaging person for us in this region to just advise you of opportunities. That's it. I mean, there's just a huge upside getting to know Nicole because that's her total focus, is just to be able to channel all of the opportunities. I barely hit on any of them. Like all our trade shows we do, the familiarization tours, there's so many other opportunities. And you can find those actually on our industry Visit California website. We'll be launching a new one in about 6 weeks, but everything's there. You can build a marketing plan, frankly, and usually when you're sitting down with Nicole, she takes you through that site and just kind of is the interpretive piece of having incredible opportunities with us, some at no cost, low cost, or some with huge strategic partnerships that we do. For example, that little tiny bike race that came through Tahoe the last couple of years, Tour California, lots of opportunities. So appreciate being here. I wish we were at the top of Gun Barrel, all of us, ready to go make some turns. But I'm just excited to have been speaking. I do probably 50 or 60 speeches a year. I don't think I've ever presented in a comedy club. So that was a little intimidating, but I'm enjoying it. So get ready for Denise. It'll be fun and funny. No pressure. Anyway, thanks, and we'll be back up for questions.